Oh my goodness. Oh my gosh. I can't believe I have to make this entry. It's like, as a dog, I couldn't believe what I saw. I had to rush in here. It was still fresh in my mind. But the man got in some kind of a pokey hoke, or whatever you call it, when there's two guys who can't really fight, start fighting each other. It happened right out on the porch of the manor house, on the big, beautiful, it's like a bandstand, this porch we have. It's massive. But deep in the recesses, right by the front door, this man came up. And I don't know if he was selling magazines or he was trying to work his way through college doing something like he wanted to mow some home lawns or clean out a gutter. I wasn't sure. But the man and him, they got talking for a little while. And you know, the man is not super arch conservative, but the man's a little bit more conservative. The man is staunchly conservative in the old school Rockefeller kind of conservative. You know, the George Herbert Walker Bush kind of conservative, or his father. I forget what George's father's name was. But it was some kind of weird name. So, like Mitt Romney's father has a weird name. These people, I don't know where they came from when they had these weird names like this. But they're that conservative, you know, where they, they're born with a silver spoon in their mouth. They're elites. They always occupy a higher level. They're not used to working, you know, doing manual labor or ever having to worry about how they're going to pay for all the groceries in the shopping cart, you know. They're not adding up every time they get some butter or some toilet paper. They're not trying to value shop, get the best value, and then they're adding it up. I'm up to $63. I only got $70 in my pocket. I only got $70 in my card. You know, I'm $63. I better cut it short, and I want to get a couple candy bars for the kids. I'm trying to add it up in my head to try to see if I could pay for everything in my shopping cart, if I could push and get one more thing. I don't want to be embarrassed to say, I can't afford to. Sometimes you have to go and you have to say, I'm pretty sure I can get everything, but put this in last. These steaks, these T-bones, put them in last just in case, because I got to get the, you know, other things, the foundries, the sundries. I have to get the basics so I can feed my family. And then, oh my God, look, we could afford the steaks. You're like, oh God, I'll put the steaks back. You run the steaks back yourself because you're embarrassed. You don't want to have the kid have to go back and put the steaks. You put the steaks back. It's embarrassing. You know, if you operate like the man, he never had to worry about that kind of thing. You know, so he has more of a elitist, more of a conservative, but he can be liberal on some things. He's pro everything for everybody, but you know, he's conservative. You know, he's a little bit of occupying a little higher level. So somehow him and this man, they got in a beef on the porch, and the guy was a lot younger. You know, the man is a big guy. You know, so the littler guy, it just erupted. I was sleeping on the swing. I was like going back and forth. It was a beautiful, lazy afternoon, and the man had been drinking mimosas. He was drinking mimosas. And it wasn't even the time of day you're supposed to be drinking these things, but he was pounding mimosas. He loves them. Anyways, so I was in the porch swing, just like very barely going back and forth. And when the man stood up, I heard them talking, and it wasn't really politics that led up to it, but I was like, I heard like the fisticuffs where the cheeks get smashed, and you know the inside of the mouth rattles against the gums. And I said, oh my God, what's going on? So I look, and the little man popped the man, and the man took like a step back, and then the man threw his hands up and tried to hit the little guy, and he couldn't hit the little guy. He threw like a jab and then a big punch, and the little guy stepped around and popped him 2 more times. Pap, pap. And the man didn't even stagger. He just plodded forward, and he kind of waited, and the man was trying to time the little guy, and he threw a punch, and it almost clipped the little guy, and the little guy said, that's enough, and he kind of ran off. But just before the altercation, I was kind of daydreaming. I wasn't sure if I heard it, but then when I researched in my recollection of the event, I realized that I remember the little guy. He starts saying, you know, so what if on the eve, I can remember so clearly on the eve of the election, a day or two before the Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump election, I thought to myself, I'm going to have I want to have like a mommy figure, somebody who's going to embrace me. The next president of the United States is going to be somebody who embraces me. And this really made the man indignant. I could see right away. I could tell just by my ears perked up a little because I was like, oh my gosh, I started wagging my tail. Don't get upset, man, because I know he's a little conservative, but the man, he became a big Donald Trump enthusiast. Then he got away from it. Then he went back to it. I think he's back off it again, but he did not want Hillary, win. The band was not Hillary at all. But this little guy, he came up on the porch, and he was, I can't remember what they were discussing, but he was like, I just was so looking forward to it because my mother kind of rejected me. I had a bad relationship with my mother, and she didn't really give me the love I needed. And I thought maybe I could just have a long distance embrace from Hillary. Like it'd be like having a slightly portly, marm, like a school marm. As you're, somebody on there nationally every day, you could say, oh, there's the school marm, and her hips look a little wider, and her haircut looks a little bit more lesbian-esque. It's a beautiful combination where you got that, it's like a bowling pin kind of a thing. It's like thunder thighs. You're like, oh my goodness, her thighs are getting so robust. And, she's got the lesbianic hairdo, and she's like a schoolmarm, and her chins are folding out. She's getting extra chins, and, but she's got a glisten in her eyes. She's like a pregnant woman. Somehow there's a glow. She looks a little prettier than she really is. And she could give us a hug every day. It'd be like a Hillary Rodham Clinton hug, like the president. I got a female. You'd be safer. It wouldn't be so many wars, you would think. The women wouldn't have so many wars. But, whatever. It doesn't matter. But but that was what the little skinny guy was saying. The little skinny guy was saying, I wish I could, and why is that so wrong? I just was, and then when it became Donald, I wasn't too worried about Donald. The little skinny guy says, I wasn't afraid of Donald. But then he became, his true colors, he wants to be a fascist dictator, And Hillary, she could have maybe tried to be a fascist dictator, but she would have been more like a schoolmarm, with a lesbian hairdo, with a big white hips, and she could have been like a mommy who could give me a hug. And my mommy never loved me. I wasn't close to my mother, so I have that gnawing, gaping hole in my soul, and I wanted to have Hillary Clinton give me a warm embrace, even if it was only over the television. I want a warm embrace from, I kind of be my mommy president. I was kind of hoping for a mommy. And why is it wrong? Why is it wrong? And the man, I'll never forget this part. The man said, you know what, son? No, I'm not going to try to psychoanalyze you, okay, my friend? It's not so wrong. It's not so wrong. It's not so wrong that your mommy rejected you and you wished you could have a hug. But the part that's so wrong is it cannot be Hillary Rodham Clinton that gives you a hug. You have to get another kind of a person to give you a hug. It's okay that you're weak and, your mommy rejected you, and it's okay that you wish any old woman would give you a hug to replace all the love that you lost because your mom left you and she didn't care about you. And that's when the guy, I could see he was welling up, but the man said, that's not really the horrible thing. The horrible thing is that you would choose Hillary Rodham Clinton to fulfill that role. And that's when the man popped him. And he took a pop, and, I can remember the little guy was saying, why is it wrong? Why can't I admit that? And that was the other thing the man said, it's like, it's not so bad even that it was Hillary, as bad as you admit. You have to admit. You can't admit it out loud. If you just kept it to yourself, you could even got away with the mother part. Your mother didn't love you, so you got to have somebody else, some kind of a mother figure in your life to give you a little bit of, whatever it would be, a little affection or attention or well-being, or you could feel a little bit better inside yourself. It's not so horrible. And Hillary is kind of bad. You should not, it's the fact that it's Hillary, that's your own personal pick-elections, your pickadillos, that's you. But then you admit it. That's the part, when you admit it. And that's when that little skinny guy threw a jab. And, the man says, you can't admit this crap out loud. You can't admit that you love Hillary Rodham Clinton or you wanted to have a Clinton mommy president. You can't say, I wish I had a Clinton mommy president. I was so disappointed when I didn't get a Clinton mommy president for myself. You can't admit that. And that's when the fur really started to fly. And the funny thing, the man won the fight. He couldn't land a punch, but just the big forceful, he got centered with his big distended belly, his big liver-induced belly. And, his dying liver syndrome, fat, slovenly, spare tire. That's what he did. He got centered underneath his big, fat, slovenly spare tire, and he kind of shifted. So as the fat waves went back and forth like water in a tub, he kind of was trying to time it when the fat would come towards the little guy. He would throw a punch, and that third punch almost clipped him, and it scared the little guy, and he ran away because, the man had taken some abuse. The man had a big shiner. In like an hour, the man had a black eye and a shiner. It was funny, but it was funny. But I'll never forget that little guy's like, why is this so wrong? And I just, in our society today, you can't admit that you wanted Hillary Rodham Clinton to be the mommy president and to embrace you and give you a warm embrace. That you can't admit. That makes it so wrong. You can admit all these other things, like, we would like to hurt people that are involved with abortion, or that, you're willing to allow certain things to happen so we can keep the guns, or, if you got to go to a war, you're willing to not have ever gone to war yourself, but as like a congressman, you could vote and send somebody else to war. Whatever. It's okay. But the part, that's the little guy who's saying to himself, he's like, but the part, I can't have Hillary, The little guy was like, you can have all that, but I cannot have a love of such a disappointment that the time at the eve of Hillary Rodham Clinton's loss, and I was watching Saturday Night Live, and Chris Rock and Dave Chappelle came on, and they were making fun of all the white people that had wanted to have Hillary Rodham Clinton as their mommy. And the black people, they didn't want her because the Russians had convinced all the black people don't vote for Hillary. And that was really great. So they got Trump, which was great for the black people. The black people, really, really, really they had so much respect and so much love and so much uplifting and upbuilding out of the Trump White House. That's what made it so wonderful. And thank God they didn't vote for Hillary and they got duped by the Russians, so they couldn't have no Hillary for the president. That's what the little guy was saying. But the man was like, you're crazy. God, Donald Trump's the best thing that ever happened to this country. And the guy said, I'm not even really arguing about anything to do with Donald Trump and the hot economy. I just wish a Hillary Clinton could have given me like a Hillary Clinton Rodman presidential hug every day on the TV, like a fireside chat. It would be so wonderful to have a fireside hug from, old roly-poly, beautiful lesbianic hair dude Hillary. Oh my goodness! And that's when the man I thought was going to punch him, but then the man said, you can't admit that, and that's when it all sparked off. But that was crazy, and I just I'm tired of just the whole thing. I was so excited, I was shaking. So I'm just going to sign off. But that was a strange thing that just happened. I mean, it was kooky. I have to say it was kooky.